In my last two videos, I went over some of the basic functions you can do with strings and numbers. Now this video, I'm going to be going over a couple of different things you can do with Booleans. Booleans are not quite as versatile as numbers or strings in terms of all the different operations you can do with them, seeing as Booleans are just true or false values, but nonetheless they are a very important part of programming. So if we remember from, I think it was part 2, I went over the two separate values a Boolean can have, true or false. Now, I have recently learned that you can use console.log instead of logger.log, as it seems a bit more consistent. Do note that the C in console is lowercase, but otherwise it is the same as you were using for logger. Usually doesn't show up here, but it will show up here. Yep, this time is right. I don't know what I expected. Yeah, so as you can see, it says A is indeed true, which is what we want. Now, you aren't going to be dealing with just A or B type of logic. Sometimes you need to reverse logic or perform other operations on it. So there are three separate Boolean operators that you can use, being not, and or. And in case that doesn't come out on video, it's not and or. So going through these one at a time, let's see. I'm just going to fill this in. So not uses an exclamation point. So I'm just going to show this here and here. So think of not as kind of the Boolean equivalent of negative. So not basically flips the value. If it is true, it becomes false, and if it is false, it becomes true. Let me guess, it's not going to show up here. Aha! Not true is equal to false, and not false is equal to true. That is correct. So that's a very basic one that you may occasionally use. There are also, so that's the only unary Boolean operator, unary meaning it acts on one Boolean. So we also have a couple of binary operators, like let's first do and. I totally did that one wrong. So and is using two ampersands, which is what those symbols that are on your 7 key when you hold shift. So you probably have not used that one before, but that's what, so it is called an ampersand. And note that if you swap the order of the operators here, if you swap the order of A and B, it will still be the same. So so true and false is false. So true and false, so and is only evaluates to true. So this statement would only evaluate to true if both A and B are both true. And I will show you all the different values these can take in a minute. But the last one is or, which is using another borderline impossible to find key on your keyboard. It is above the enter key. It is the, that one's vertical, the vertical slash, which is on, you need to hold shift for that one. So unlike and, or is true if either operator on each side of it is true. Of course it's not loading. Oh, here it is. True or false is true. So this would only be false if both A and B were false. The last bit of interesting things you can do here with Booleans is what is known as a truth table. A truth table is essentially what it sounds like. It is a table of truthness values for different Boolean expressions based on their inputs. For example, this generates a table with two different variables, A and B, and shows what the value of the expression A and B is given different values for, well, A and B. So this is what the output looks like. So first we have the A and B. When A is true and B is true, A and B is true. When either of them are false, A and B is false, and when both of them are false, so too is A and B. Similarly for OR, if both of them are true, it outputs true. If one of them is, so long as one of them is true, it will output true. And if both of them are false, it will output false. Now, Google Script really does not print this nicely, which is unfortunate, but that's what you have to take from it. So I've included these examples under part 5 bool.gs in the Introduction to Google Script notes in the Google Drive, so let me know if you don't have access to that. So I'm in the wrong tab. So yeah, so that is basically most of what you can do with Booleans. So now that I've gone through 3 different videos showing you what you can, some of the basic things you can do with strings, some of the basic things you can do with numbers, and some of the basic things you can do with Booleans, we can move on to more interesting stuff and actually apply what we've learned.